AM 650 presents your source for leading-edge news and information on today's hottest products and services. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
Well, good evening. Welcome to the program. Today on Experts on Call, we're back to Recovery Radio here on AM 650, a show about hope. Hope that those people who are addicted to drugs and alcohol can and do recover. And it's a real pleasure to welcome back to the studio Lorinda Strang, Executive Director of the Orchard Recovery Center over there on Bowen Island. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, Sterling.
And also with us from the Orchard Recovery Center is Anne-Marie McCullough, Director of Communications and Community Relations over there on Bowen Island. Hello.
Hello, Sterling.
Now, you and I last talked on the radio about a week and a half or so ago in advance of that big event down at the Art Gallery on Georgia Street called Recovery Day. You and Lorinda had just returned from Washington, D.C., where you were the recipients of an award from what was the outfit in the States?
It's called SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse Mental Health Services Administration. So it's a branch of the government, U.S. government, that deals with substance abuse and mental health issues.
And they were the people who created or who began this whole Recovery Day initiative in America, and you were the first to jump on the bandwagon, so to speak, and bring it north to Canada. And for that, you were recognized in D.C. by this organization. So congratulations, Lorinda, on the award. How was that? Was that fun?
It was really exciting, and we were really proud to go and accept the award on behalf of Recovery Day. It was an award for Vancouver's Recovery Day rally exceeding expectations,
right.
and so it was very exciting.
Right, and you share it with an old colleague of mine, David Berner, one of the organizers of Recovery Day here in Vancouver. He's a good guy, and nice to see deserving people recognized.
Yes.
So tell us, Anne-Marie, about Recovery Day in Vancouver. How was it? I saw the pictures. I saw you on television, and there looked to be quite a good turnout.
Yeah, we had a great turnout. We had over 30 exhibitors this year, so it was quite a bit bigger than last year. We had the same format. We had some wonderful politicians who came down to support us. Constance Barnes, who was on the show.
Who was on the show last time,
That's right.
Yeah.
She was there. We also had the reading of the proclamation by City Councillor Raymond Louie, and we also had John Weston, our MP for West Vancouver and the Sea to Sky country. He was there. All these people were there supporting what Recovery Day is about. So, and Daryl Plekas for the MLA from Abbotsford was there as well. So we had wonderful shares, gratitude shares, musicians performing, and then we finished the day with the Vancouver Sweet Soul Gospel Choir, which really just left everybody uplifted and feeling great. So we were very happy with the second year. I mean, the fact that it went national this year is really the big story. I mean, we had done this rally in Vancouver before, but this year there were 12 cities across Canada celebrating Recovery Day. So that is, I think, the bigger story about it. But we're very happy with Vancouver's turnout, and we did get great coverage. And I thank you for having us on the show to talk about it just before. And yeah.
Oh,
really
good stuff. Also in studio, joining us for the very first time, another person who was at that Recovery Day rally in Vancouver a couple of short weeks ago. Our guest is Susie Galimba. She is an internationally certified interventionist from Global Interventions here in Vancouver. Susie, welcome. Nice to see you.
It's nice to be here, Sterling. Thank you for having me.
Well, thanks for coming in. Your impressions of Recovery Day a couple of weeks ago in town.
It was just a phenomenal day. It was so exciting to see everybody come together in the cause of really putting recovery out there to the public. It's not a dirty little secret anymore, and it was just an amazing turnout, and I was just so proud to be there and to volunteer that day.
Well, why is it, and I'm glad you put it out there, it's not a dirty little secret anymore. It's an accomplishment, really, to come from, and all three of you people have been there, and to get your life back together, to have a focus and a purpose and a clear head to see it all, and that's an amazing accomplishment. What's the dirty little secret about that? It's the stigma, isn't it? It's
Absolutely.
the social stigma. Yeah, she can't handle her booze. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I find that recovery is a gift, and I'm so grateful to be able to be sober and in recovery, and it's just been an amazing journey for me. And I'm very open about the fact that I am in recovery, and I try to spread the word that it's okay to be an addict, as long as you can do something about it. And there is so much help out there, and it's been an incredible journey for me.
We'll come back to the whole interventionist and how you got to where you are now, traveling the world, literally doing the kind of work you do. But Lorinda, take us back to square one. Take us over to Bowen Island and talk to us a bit about the Orchard and the type of programs you offer for people who need help.
Well, the Orchard Recovery Center is a family-owned private residential treatment center, and we are just across the ferry, 20 minutes from Horseshoe Bay on Bowen Island. And we are one of the smaller treatment centers, and what that means for us is that we can treat each client individually. There are rules and expectations, but we can help really inspire and give hope and treat people sometimes individually where it's not such a cookie cutter situation.
Sure. Anne-Marie, how many people are in residence at any given time at the Orchard?
Well, our primary care is 25 beds.
Okay.
And then we have the 2 sober living houses, one for the men and one for the women, and that can hold up to about 15 more people. So we can have up to 40 people, technically in treatment at one time, but 25 in the primary care facility.
And how long is a program? If you go to the Orchard to take the recovery program, how many weeks or days should you circle on the calendar?
Well, as Lorinda pointed out, everybody's an individual, and some people can afford and for a variety of reasons can be away from work or their families for longer. Research indicates that the longer you stay in treatment, the better your chances of a long and contented life and recovery are going to be. So 90 days is sort of the new number that we would love everyone to be able to stay for. But our primary sort of considered our program is 6 weeks, 42 days. We have an abbreviated 28-day program, which used to be the model, and what everybody sort of, went with was 28 days. But we know today that 28 days is, it's okay, but we'd really prefer you to do the full program. So we consider you to be completed at 42 days. 90 days would be maybe 6 weeks in primary care and then 6 weeks in our extended care facility, which allows you an opportunity to slowly integrate back into your life and not just hit the ground running after being sequestered and away from everything. So this is like a slow integration back. You do maybe some volunteer work, maybe you do some work, you're still in programming.
Sure, yeah.
And so that's what and of course we do offer a 10-day introduction to treatment, which of course we don't, it's not ideal for anyone to come to treatment for 10 days, but sometimes people need to slowly dip their toes in the water. Once they're there, they might agree to stay longer. And sometimes if people relapse, 10 days might be something they come back for to get a refresher and get back on track. But yeah, so 6 weeks is our program.
Okay. Lorinda, when people, and we'll talk about interventions, and that's a consequence of a successful intervention, is an individual going to a treatment facility. But at the Orchard, I don't imagine everyone who comes to you is there as a result of an intervention, the likes of which Susie conducts. So how do people get there? Do they come and check themselves in voluntarily? Do family people bring them? Or is the intervention process the usual process before they come to the Orchard?
We have all of the scenarios that you just mentioned, and most often the family member will call first. And sometimes the person that is seeking help has done some research themselves on the internet and looked through our website and made the call themselves, and they're just ready to come in. Sometimes family members will bring people over for a tour. They'll come first, they'll bring their family member, try and get them their mind set at ease that it's not such a bad thing to come into treatment. As Susie just said, treatment is a gift, it's not a punishment. And then there's also families that we will help coach through the process of what they should do to talk to their family member, and one of those interventions is to call a professional interventionist.
Okay. And by the way, if you're looking around and doing homework and seeking information on the internet, I would highly recommend orchardrecovery.com as a terrific website. Again, full of very useful information. It's not just a promotion thing for the Orchard. There's a lot of good information conversation about recovery and addiction and what families can do and how they can be involved in a positive way. Susie, let's cut to the chase here.
Okay.
Let's assume that let's talk about families, because it's the families that seek you out. You and your colleagues at Global Interventions, families call you up and say, boy, do we need a pro to come in here and bail us out of this terrible situation. So talk us through what families go through before they ultimately get to you.
Well, intervention is really the last line of defense. When a family has a loved one that is a drug addict or an alcoholic, there comes a point where no matter how much they've cajoled the person or whatever they've done, it just hasn't worked, and they're watching their loved one kill themselves. And so really intervention is the last line of defense. And when we get the call, we know this is serious. And this family has reached out for help.
Right now, I don't know whether it's still on the air or not, but A&E in the States used to run a program called Intervention.
That's right.
And it was pretty dramatic. I mean, it's television, so of course it's dramatic and riveting and compelling. But the human beings in the situations, no matter how carefully edited, were clearly in psychological trauma, really messed up. And a lot of the messed up people weren't the addicts. They were the family members who've been living with this forever and a day and look to be in almost as bad a shape as the person who was hooked on booze or drugs.
Absolutely. And what people sometimes don't realize is that they're actually enabling the person to continue in their use in the family. So that's what intervention, a big part of what we do at Global Interventions is we really do family education, and we teach them about codependency and enabling. When the family has become addicted to the addict, then there's a problem.
What does that mean?
When a person is lost in addiction, they're very manipulative. So people tend to give them money, give them a place to stay, pick them up from wherever they're going to be, wherever they are. And those are all enabling the person to not really take a look at their own addiction. They're being enabled to continue to use. Right.
Okay. Oh, by the way, I wanted to ask you, Lorinda, about this because in my notes, I did a little homework here, and it says, this is, quote, addictions can include, but are not limited to, drug abuse, sexual addiction, alcohol, and gambling. Now, we've talked basically already, Susie, in the context of booze and drugs. Is it a different game altogether for either sex addiction or gambling, or is it all addiction for which essentially the same pattern of therapy or treatment works?
Absolutely. Any other types of addictions, it's all the same process that we go through. An addiction is an addiction. It doesn't have to be to a substance. We've done...
It's a behavior then,
absolutely.
Isn't it? Right, okay.
We've done interventions, for example, on a 14-year-old boy who had an addiction to video games. It's all those kind of things. Addiction is addiction. If it's destroying your life and those around you, then there's a problem. And so basically the process is the same no matter what, if it's a substance or anything else, really.
Right. Anne-Marie, is it likely, though, that most of the people at any given time at the Orchard, the addiction is either to drugs or alcohol? Is that usually the majority of the cases?
Well, at the Orchard, we focus on drug and alcohol.
Okay.
So we consider ourselves a substance abuse treatment center.
All right.
However, many of the people that are at the Orchard currently and in the past are dually addicted. But when we take them when their primary addiction is to drugs and or alcohol.
Does one addiction, Lorinda, lead to another? Do they sort of partner up, whether it's booze and drugs or gambling and alcohol, or do these behaviors tend to overlap and integrate in a negative way?
That's often the case, and what we see primarily, as Emery was saying, is the drugs and alcohol. And then often what you see is while people are entering into recovery and they're not using alcohol and drugs as a coping skill, you may see other issues emerge for them and that they will use as a coping skill. So we have to address that as a whole and teach. What we teach is healthy coping skills.
Okay, I have a friend who had alcohol issues many years ago and who went to AA and went through their 12-step program. And very successfully, but I remember him telling me that because it was really intense and everybody's working through all of this stuff. And of course, nobody's drinking and everybody's really trying hard. But every time they took a break, oh my God, the coffee and cigarettes that went on, he said it was just staggering. I mean, caffeine and smokes just rolling like crazy. And if that's the worst problem that's going on, compared to what they're struggling with, not such a big deal after all, is it, Susie?
That's right.
So talk to us about, in your case, you had a combination. You said you darn near killed yourself. And that was a combination of drugs and alcohol, right?
That's right. I had a 35-year addiction to drugs and alcohol. I say that alcohol is actually my drug of choice, but it was anything and everything for 35 years. And, you know, I had a good life. Everything looked great from the outside. I had a great career. I had a husband and children. But on the inside, I was a broken human being. And at the end, I decided that I would drink and drug myself to death. And it took about 7 months until I was in the ICU. And I was actually intervened by a very, very good addictions doctor and my family.
This is at a hospital here in the Lower Mainland.
That's right. And I ended up going to treatment, accepting the help that was being offered.
Right.
Which was difficult. Very, very difficult.
After decades?
Decades of active addiction.
Tough.
It was very scary. It was scary to leave my family and to face my life without alcohol or drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was scary. But I'm in my 6th year of recovery now. It's like I said before, it's been an incredible gift. My family is whole again, and it's wonderful. And now I can pass it on.
You're listening to, well, we call it Recovery Radio for obvious reasons here on AM 650. I'm Sterling Fox, and we'll be right back.
There's still more ahead with Experts on Call, the show focused on delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.